So our first speaker has 15 years experience in digital and online services, project management, sales and marketing across banking, finance and the telecommunications industry. He was at NAB where he cut his teeth leading NAB's monetisation and commercial realisation of the online channel. He went on to Ubank after 10 years with NAB to lead the design, delivery and operations of Ubank Online, which launched in October 2008. And if I can make a side comment about that, it was really one of the first and correct me if I'm wrong when you come up on stage, truly entrepreneurial activities by a major corporate in Australia, and a very, very successful one at that. In 2011, joined Telstra to lead operations for Telstra Digital, and as many of you may be aware of, really the disruption part of the Telstra business, given a huge mandate to be part of the transformation of that giant, and if the share price is anything to go by, must be doing something right at the moment. Monty is a regular speaker at leading conferences on topics including digital business, strategy, online sales, customer experience and corporate use of social media. He's the corporate maverick who brings startup thinking to Australia's biggest corporations. Please welcome Monty Hamilton.
Thanks. Wow. Who wrote that? It wasn't me. So thanks. So we're at Telstra. We're excited to be in partnership with IE. We do a lot of work together, and that relationship is in good health. So thanks to the IE team and the IE team members here. You mentioned a couple of things then, Reece, and they resonate and stick with me. And that is, we've got to do more in Australia to keep us from this digital diaspora of people packing their bags and going to Silicon Valley. So I'm pleased to see the launch of the Silicon Block in Richmond versus Collins Street. I'm also trying to do my bit here to keep that talent in Australia and to try and put Australia on the map. And for those of you who have been abroad, spent time in the States or other markets, Asia's on our doorstep, and the explosion of digital growth there is taking place. And we're not all that different. You know, I used to think a decade ago, oh my God, Silicon Valley, it must be the most amazing thing. All these things happen here, they couldn't happen anywhere else in the world. The truth is, actually, they can happen anywhere. We're seeing the startup scene and entrepreneurialism just thrive in Israel. We're seeing new US cities, well, sorry, not new US cities, but US cities really thrive in startup space. A city like Austin has just culturally transformed itself to be one of the digital startups. So we're trying to do our bit at Telstra, and it's funny when you get asked to talk about your own journey, you spend most of your career talking about other things, the content that you work on. So I took a bit of thought into what I'd share with you. Like many of you, I grew up a little bit geek. I had my CD burner and was earning a bit of pocket money on the side in the mid-90s, ripping down songs off Napster or pre-Napster. It used to cost $10 for a blank CD back in 1995, I think. They were made with real gold, also the guy selling them to me said. You know, it wasn't all that cool in the computer room. And just on that note, a pause for a moment. Sunday's International Women's Day, so you guys rock. We all rock, but we're better together for incredible diversity. So we're starting to make some inroads in the digital space, so we can continue that journey. So I left high school. Like everyone, this whole kind of thing, oh, let's go and, go to university and then you'll do this degree and then you'll go and, work in some respectable job somewhere. Well, that didn't really work out for me. I went to university and hated it. I wasn't getting paid and I was putting all this work in and I was like, this value equation's not adding up for anyone. So we upped stumps at Ballarat Uni and went to the big smoke. I moved to Melbourne and I started work for NAB. I worked for NAB for 10 years and I kind of call that my undergraduate degree. I really had no idea what I was doing. I was answering phones in a call centre. And then I saw a little flyer on the wall that said, NAB is launching online banking and we're looking for people who know things about Netscape. And I said, oh, this is unreal. I know all about this. So I went to the brown bag lunch and and pretty soon realised I actually knew more about Netscape and the early versions of Internet Explorer and generally how a modem did a handshake and all that than anyone else at NAB. So I quickly jumped into the online space and ultimately launched online banking at NAB and a whole bunch of other things. 10 years went by pretty quick, it really followed the trajectory or growth or commercialisation of the internet, where we sort of had that inflection point from internet and connectivity as an academic research tool, moving in, and the evolution of multimedia from Microsoft Encarta to ultimately Wikipedia. And I had an amazing time at NAB, incredible company. But after 10 years in one company, I thought, I'm done. But I had a conversation with a couple of friends of mine, and I realised I was actually sitting on my hands a bit. I'd become kind of a risk-averse banker, which really wasn't my personality. So we broke out of that mould. Myself and a few guys at NAB pitched the board, completely unsolicited, the idea of launching a direct bank. And the board members of a 150-year-old bank don't really, in 2008, grapple with the concept of a few guys launching a digital bank. Miraculously, they endorsed our back-of-envelope calculations, and 4 years later, we launched UBank. 4 months later, we launched UBank. Yeah, it wasn't 4 years. Fail very slowly. So UBank was incredible. We had the keys to NAB. We could take what we wanted from this incredible organisation, and NAB is an incredible pool of resources. UBank launched, and today is Australia's largest direct bank, has over 500,000 customers. I think it's the 10th largest bank in Australia. And it's a really good success story of digitisation. What UBank taught me was about culture and values ahead of skill and competencies. And basically what that means is you hire someone who's generally a good person and has values and beliefs aligned to the goals you're trying to achieve, and they can deliver on any job. I was hired there to be that head of online in a pretty title-conscious environment. And I had no idea what I was doing, but we launched a bank, and it was very successful, and that was because of the team and environment we created. After UBank, and some people ask me, why did you leave UBank? UBank became a business that had grown and matured, and the curve was much more about running a business than it was changing and building a business. And I needed to get back into the space where I was creating change or building something. An opportunity presented at perhaps one of the most iconic brands, and no matter what you think of Telstra, and you've probably all had a pretty challenging customer service experience at some stage, you can't fault the iconic nature of Telstra as a brand. About 4 years ago, I walked into a Telstra office and I was, terrified. My bill, like many of yours, was erroneous. My mobile phone reception was great. But this was a business that about 20% of its transactions were taking place in digital, and I've just left an industry where the benchmark was 70%. How do you get 16 million mobile subscribers to adopt digital? You have to create change within an organisation. So that was what we did. That was a journey we started nearly 4 years ago at Telstra. We looked at how do we capture the brilliance of the organisation, but how do we disrupt it at the same time? And what I'd learnt through UBank at a very different scale was that this notion of good people, good behaviours, good values can do anything. And the opportunity and some of the early results we've delivered at Telstra is just evidence of that. We have a little bit of an operating theory, well I do, and it's one that is a resilience test within a corporate environment. Corporate environments are really quite used to forcing you to conform. In fact, change and risk-taking is not actively encouraged within a corporate setting at all. So my theory when I rock up to the office every day is if I make a decision that I believe is right, the right thing to do, and I get fired for making that decision, then I've learnt at that point in time the company I don't want to work for. Because that value exchange, what's near and dear to me and what I get back beyond the paycheck, which, let's be honest, isn't the reason why we're all primarily motivated to go to work, isn't there anymore. So taking risks, being on the edge, trying to change a 120-year-old telco has been near and dear to my personal time over the last 4 years. I work with an incredible team. We're a team of over 400 people, one of the largest digital teams in the country. We've moved the transactional behaviour of Telstra from around 20% taking place in digital today to around 50%. So it's a massive, massive growth change in terms of transactional behaviour. But we're not done yet. We're not done yet. We've got plenty of stuff ahead of us. And I guess I might pause there, and that's a bit about my story, and thanks for the opportunity to share.